Hey, welcome. My God, I seriously, even I am slightly in shock at the news of this one. So we're going to talk about that in a few moments in terms of the encounter that I had with the physio at my doctor's surgery, because it is mind blowing. And when she saw the results, first thing she said is, "Wow, what are you doing?" So we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But first of all, I want to just say thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone for the Talk TV. So I'm just back from the TV studio in London. Let me show you here. And went in to meet with Danielle, and it was just such great fun. Really, really enjoyed being live in the studio. And before I went along to the studio, had a bit of a discussion about, okay, what am I going to wear now? The winning outfit was actually the orange one, but let me show you what I mean. Here it is. Right, so this is what I prepared earlier. So this is the orange one, which is absolutely gorgeous. Love the color, love the style of it as well. This is the front, and it's got quite a big drop in the front. And it's new, haven't worn it before. And so when I put it on today, if you're sitting right directly front on, brilliant. But I realized from a couple of angles, I could, now it could be because that's the angle I'm looking from, but I could look straight down the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wear it, because the next chakra we're going to be working on, and I'll tell you about the 7-part chakra series in a minute as well, but the next chakra we're working on is orange. So I'm going to wear that top for the chakra webinar, just so I can see how it performs under working conditions. But I thought, actually, I don't want to wear it to the studio. I don't know what the camera angles are, because I've not been into that particular studio before. So I thought, to be on the safe side, I'm going to go with the second choice, which was the green. Now, when I arrived at the building, I arrived about half an hour before I was due to go live. And I saw the two presenters as I was coming in, and the person who was taking me said, "Hey, this is Marilyn. She's your next guest." And Danielle immediately said, she went, "Snap," because we were almost wearing the same color green. So it felt like it was a good choice, a bit of synchronicity there. But that's why I didn't go for the orange, because I was going to wear it. That was the consensus on Facebook. So I put it on and then thought, oh, actually, depending on where they have the cameras angled, I'll go with the green just to be on the safe side. So that was that. Had a really brilliant time. Absolutely loved it. So I've just put the blog together. I've just updated it with all of the dates. You can see the timeline. So, for example, I had a meeting with my wonderful physio, met her for the first time in June, 16th of June this year, because she was giving me the overview of the results that I just had in. Because at the start of this year, I realized my shoulder was getting really sore and stiff. And so did a full month of qigong, which normally, that if I'm not using Huna, that's the next thing I'll use. And because qigong is very specific, I've got a whole book which maps out the entire body. So I thought, actually, let's do some qigong this time. So I did a full month of qigong, made absolutely no difference. I then did 3 months with my osteopath, which is a ridiculously long time, because normally with my osteopath, I need 1 session, possibly 2 if we're really having to push the boat out. But normally with the work I've done with myself with Huna, when I go to my osteopath, it's just for him to do the final little adjustments and tweaking with his expertise. So when we got to our 3rd session, even he was a bit like, what's going on here? When we did our 4th, 5th session, we're both like, no idea what on earth is happening here. And he even pulled out. Now, I don't think I've loaded it up. Actually, if I can find it quickly, I'm going to show you this. Oh, what did I call it? Don't know. Oh, yes, I called it shoulder. Oh, no, that was after the electric shock, but I'm not sure what I called the electric shock machine. But let me just show you this. And if I can remember where exactly, because I've got a gazillion photos, if I can kind of see which file I've put but this is after the electric shock treatment. So you've got these big suction pads that you put all over the shoulders, and that's my shoulder, and that's where the suction pad was. When my osteopath couldn't think of what else to do and couldn't figure out why it was not shifting at all, if anything, it was getting worse, he brought out the big guns and we did the electric shock treatment. That unfortunately didn't work either. So I decided then I'm going to do an x-ray. So go back to my GP and I say, there's something really not right with my shoulder. They referred me to the physio. We did a Zoom call. That's the thing of the day, as you all know now. We've been in lockdown. Well, we're out of it now, but you know how that goes. So did the Zoom session, and she did the very same mobility test that my osteopath had done in person. And one of them is to, you know, put the arm. This is be a good arm, but one of the tests is to put the arm, you know, behind your back. So if you can see that, and all that sort of stuff, and of course raising it, etc. So did all of those tests, and she was like, "Ooh," she said, "it looks, from what you're saying, presents as frozen shoulder," which by then, of course, I'd heard the term because I discussed it with my osteopath. And she said, "But to be just to be sure, because you don't seem like the sort of person, you know, osteoarthritis, but she said, just to be sure, let's do the x-rays." So in May of this year, went to Watford General Hospital, did the x-rays, results came back, got a call from the doctor saying, "We have your results. Good job I was sitting down," because I really, when she said those words, I was like, sorry, what did she say? And I think, you know, they can probably hear it in your voice. You're like, whoa. But when they got the x-ray back, she said, "You've got osteoarthritis in the shoulder." And I was like, what the heck? And the reason I was like, what the heck? Because in my brain, osteoarthritis is something you get when you're like 80 or 90 years old. So I was a bit like, okay. So they said, you need to speak to the physio. She'll explain all the results to you, and then you'll talk about your next step. So I did that meeting with the physio on the 16th of June. Could barely move my arm. Now, without pain, let me just say it that way, without pain. Of course, I could make myself do things and, you know, maneuver myself in, but it was painful. So did that, did the HUNA to kind of get that pain down so I could just function. So you would have known anything was wrong with me, because it wasn't like, but I thought, you know, I know though the range of movement isn't where I would want it to be. So this all coincided with, those of you on my e-newsletter list, if you're reading the e-newsletters, you would have seen the invite where I invited you at the beginning of May to an exclusive workshop, which was for my e-newsletter list, with the founder and creator of Block Therapy. And we did 2 webinars in May, one in the second week, and then we did one on the, I think it was the 30th of May, right at the end of the month. The reason we did 2 is because she wanted people to do the free program, and it's a paid program, but for my list, she gave the list free of charge. So everyone on my who came to the webinar, and then I asked if I could extend it to my e-newsletter list, she said yes. So everyone on my e-newsletter list was invited to take the free 9-day, what they call the sampler program. So I did the 9-day sampler program. And then there's a one that you do the starter program when you get the blocks. And that's the first thing you have to do if you're going to go beyond using what we call the rolled up towel, if you want the actual, what they call the block buddy or the block baby. So did the first 18 days, 19 days. And I was sitting in bed just before we did out just before we did the second webinar. I was sitting in bed. So we did the first one around the 9th of May, second one on the 30th. And the night before we did it, I had that voice in my head that I listened to that said, get out of bed and sit on the floor and cross your legs. And this was a Sunday. And I'm like, what? So because I'm sitting in bed, it's a Sunday evening, I'm watching Columbo. I do love my Columbo on a Sunday. But I was like, all right then. So I get out of bed. Exercise mat was already there because I've been doing block therapy that day. Get out of bed, I sit and cross my legs. I was like, oh my God, I can cross my legs. And the reason that was an oh my God is that it's been nearly 30 years. That's 30, been nearly 30 years since I've been able to sit in that position because of the ankle injuries that I've had. And it was first damaged when I was about 7 or 8 years old. I do remember sort of early teens having the same recurring problem where it at that point used to really swell up. Don't really know why, but I just remember my mum taking me to the doctors. I then damaged it really badly in my 20s, went down on the side and I ripped the tendons. And as you'll know, once you've had particularly something like the ankle, once you've injured it once, often it tends to go again. Not always, but it just has a little bit of a tendency. And that was the case in my case for sure. And then in 2015, I went down on the same ankle again, pretty much replicated the injury that I'd done in my 20s, almost the same way. In my 20s, I was running in a garden, coming out to something. Michael Schumacher had just pulled the most amazing move. I think it was the one he'd got a penalty, and he managed to fulfill the penalty while going in for a pit stop. It was something like that. And we were having a summer barbecue at a couple of friends' house, Sam and Phil. So they were all outside getting the barbecue ready. I was watching the race. So I ran out to go, oh my God, they're just going to do the replay. You've got to come and see this. And I didn't see that the second step, because it wasn't my house. I was visiting there. So I went down on the side of my ankle. So I didn't have then, all these years, not had what I call that lateral movement in it. So crossing my legs was just not something I could do. So I was like, whoa, 3 weeks of block therapy, not even that really, almost. And I'm able to cross my legs. And I've had thousands of pounds worth of physio on that ankle over the years, all paid for privately. So it's not for want of trying in terms of getting it up to speed. So that was amazing. All of this then coincides with the diagnosis of osteoarthritis. So I then thought, well, hold on a minute. If it's done that for my ankle, I wonder what it could do for my leg. Now, when I met with the physio in June, she said, what we recommend is you do some in-person treatments with local gym. Well, it's actually not that local to me, but in another part of Hertfordshire, and do some physio. And 12 to 18 months is kind of the window for starting to get that mobility back. And I was like, 12 in my head, 12 to 18 months, get out of here. And that's when I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do the physio. I smiled and nodded during the session and said, oh, yes, that's great. Okay, I'll look into that. But in my brain, I'm like, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to do the physio, and I'm going to hold off the osteopath as well. What I'm going to do for the next few weeks, and I said the coming month, is I'm just going to do the block therapy. Just going to do the block therapy. So that's what I've been doing. About 2 weeks ago, I went to do something that you would do normally, and I realized it's like, oh my God, I just did it. And I realize now that rather than having because I almost couldn't get my arm behind me, so even putting on a shirt or a jacket, now I'm having to do these contortions like I'm in Cirque du Soleil, and in terms of getting dressed. And one of the annoying things was putting on deodorant and washing under your arm. And I was in the shower, and then I got out of the shower, and I was like, hold on a minute, I've just washed under my arm and put on the deodorant like normal. And that was like, whoa. And that had been after about 4 weeks of really focusing on doing some of the protocols for the shoulder as well, rather than just doing the general body processes. So I then thought, right, I don't think this is I knew it wasn't my imagination, because when you can barely do that, and now you can put your arm all the way behind you, it's not in your imagination. But it's like, okay, let's benchmark this now. So I booked an appointment with my osteopath a few weeks ago, went to see him. Now, I was saying to the block therapy group, in my mind, I believe and I feel that I'm a good 70 to 80% there. So I went to see my osteopath. He said, how have you been doing? Because we've been corresponding via text message, and he was saying he's doing some research, still looking into it, So I then told him, hey, look, I've had this diagnosis, osteoarthritis, etc. So I went in to see him. He said, how you been? And I said, well, actually pretty good. So then he says, well, let's do, we start with the mobility test. So this arm goes up, and then this one wasn't going anywhere. So when we did the mobility test and I put the arm straight up in the air, it was like, whoa. And then when, putting it behind the back, I was able to put it behind the back. And then of course, he did the physical manipulations, getting right down into the joints, see what's happening. And he was saying, well, the mobility is back, the flexibility is there, it's much smoother, there's a lot freer, brilliant. And his words to me, he said, you're a good 70 to 80% there. And that is exactly what I'd thought myself. And I'm like, that's amazing. So I carry on. Then when things are still motor, I'm just like, you know what? This is so amazing. I need to book a session with my physio. So I contact the doctor's surgery. And there's of course there's a gatekeeper, the receptionist. So I'm saying, hey, can I book another appointment with Sam, the physio, please? And they said, well, you haven't had enough time to complete the course of treatment that she's recommended. I said, yes, I know that. However, there's something I really need to speak to her about. And they were saying, well, no, you don't speak to Sam again until. So I just had to be quite firm and say, look, something has happened. I need to discuss this with Sam. Regarding the treatment protocol. So in the end, they arranged the appointment where they said to Sam, look, Marilyn wants to speak to you. Is that okay? She's like, yeah, no problem. So we had today's Saturday, if you're watching this in real time, we had a Zoom call on Thursday. Actually, let me tell you exactly what she said, because it's on the blog. Let me just go to the blog that I've been writing. So I'm going to tell you exactly what she said. So I then say, hey, Sam, she says, how's it been going? I says, well, I have to make a confession. I have not done any of the physio that you recommended. I didn't book myself in. I haven't done it yet, but I want to show you where I'm at. So I showed her in terms of the mobility, where we were. This is exactly what she said. She says, wow, what have you been doing? So I then said, I've been doing this thing called block therapy. And then what I did is, I had them here. So I showed her the blocks and said, these are the blocks. Because she said she'd never seen them, never heard of them before. As many people, well, everybody pretty much that I've spoken to has never heard of it. So this is what you call the block buddy. And then you've got the smaller one here. And this is the block baby. But don't let the term baby fool you. It still gets right in there. So that's the baby. So that's the two of them together. So I showed her those on Zoom. She then says, oh my gosh, they're really beautiful. They look very well made. And I said, they absolutely are. They're fantastic. These are made of bamboo, precision engineered just for the job. So anyway, let me go back and tell you what she said. So she said, and I quote, she says, wow, what have you been doing? So I showed her the blocks. She immediately then said, send me the link for the blocks so I can take a look. She then says, I'm going to check it out and see if we, brackets the physio community, have perhaps been missing a trick and we could be doing something new, or we could find a different way to work with some of our clients. Because she says the stage I'm at now is sometimes that's the thing they do last. And she says, well, just seeing the progress you've made, maybe we move that forwards in the treatment protocol for some of our clients. But she said, I've never heard of the block therapy. She said, just seeing you is enough. And then she said, which I thought was amazing, she says, Marilyn, your joy at this result and just seeing your mobility, she said, I would be doing you and I a disservice if I did not look into this. That for me is what you want from your NHS practitioners. Because one of the things I found over the years, if you find something and do something that isn't the norm and isn't conventional, oftentimes you just get shut down and yes, what I call yes butted, because people see it as almost like a threat to what they're doing. What I've been saying since my thyroid gland was destroyed by the NHS, and that was purely because it was the man in the white coat did not listen to me, did not listen when I said, hey, I don't think this is a good idea, and still didn't listen to me after the gland was destroyed. And then I was falling apart before his very eyes, and still he wasn't listening. And so that had been my experience a lot of the times when you kind of bump up against kind of professionals. So her reaction was absolutely beautiful and glorious, and it was what I'd say my dream reaction. So she was intrigued. Actually, let me just see, here we go. Here is the fabulous, amazing Sam. And I did ask her permission. I said, look, I want to be able to tell people how lucky I am, and I really hope they are lucky enough to have medical professionals who are on their side. Because she says, Marilyn, as long as it's working, and particularly if you don't have to take any drugs, she says, I'm all for it. And the reason I went back to the osteopath and the reason I went back to the physio is so that it's not anecdotal. It's not just me going, oh, well, my shoulder was a bit stiff and then it was a bit better. It's like, I've had professionals looking at this and assessing this. And I've got the x-rays. I haven't got the x-rays yet, but what I'm going to do, that reminds me, I'm going to go back to the doctor's surgery and just see if they can send me some of the x-rays as well, so that I just have those for my purposes. So absolutely freaking amazing. Now, I have a question for those of you who are on my e-newsletter list. And now this isn't just about, you don't have to be ill, you don't have to be sick or anything like that. Because I just started block therapy purely because the wonderful Dr. Margot told me about it. Well, she pestered the life out of me in terms of, have you done it yet? Have you looked at it? Because she'd sent me the email, she then sent me a text, then she started WhatsApping me. I'm like, my God, what is going on? Because she sent me the details right slap bang in election time, so I just didn't have time to look at it. So you don't have to have something drastically wrong with you. And actually, I would say if you are in fabulous health, that is the perfect time to do it, because you want to keep things that way, not wait until there's a problem. So at the start of my block therapy journey, it was all just about maintaining health, improving flexibility, the way the muscles and the joints operate, etc. Then of course the shoulder comes into place. I'm like, oh wow, now I've got another reason to do it. But for me, it is about maintaining health. So if you're in good health, good for you, keep it that way. And if you do have a particular problem or challenge, it is potentially amazing for that. So I put together a collage for those on my e-newsletter list, just so they could see some of the things you could do with block therapy. So you see the guy there with the kind of the hump and the leaning forward. They've got a whole program on Dowager's hump. People with scoliosis, they find that they're able to sort of straighten themselves up. Of course, if you've got one leg shorter than the other, which is what my osteopath said, I said, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about people who've got the curvature of the spine. Having a leg shorter, of course, is a different matter. It's not going to regrow that or anything, and that's not what I was saying. But you can see some of the pictures here of people with scoliosis. You can see someone who had the excess skin after they'd lost weight, and how that had shrunk and started to disappear just with the block therapy, not with surgery or anything like that. And of course, people with weight loss, cellulite, etc. So it has been absolutely amazing. And when I first saw these pictures, and I was putting the collage together, I was like, oh my God, wow. Just imagine getting results that dramatic. Then when my ankle was sorted after nearly 30 years, in just 20 days, I'm like, whoa, okay, that was dramatic. But the shoulder and the osteoarthritis thing, that's just kind of blown my mind, really, because of course I was hoping for that. But, it sounds a bit final. Osteoarthritis, 12 to 18 months. Good luck. So to have that major a result and difference and be 80% there in just 6 weeks. And my osteopath said, well, what's involved in the block? And I said, I have to be perfectly honest with you. I have spent the majority of the time lying in bed watching Netflix. I said to her, look, the only downside of the block therapy is that my nighttime viewing, after I finish my working day, my nighttime viewing has increased significantly, because if I do a quick round of blocking, that's basically, what is it, half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. But to do not a nice full body blocking session where I'm just lying in bed, that's about the length of a movie. And sometimes you get into it, you go, watch a second one. And I'm not kidding you when I say about blocking in bed. Now, of course, this isn't me. This is Deanna, the founder of block therapy, but she's demonstrating there how you would block in bed. So the results I've gotten with my shoulder, majority of that has been lying in bed, putting the block in the various positions and just watching movies. Way easier than 12 to 18 months of physical in-person physio. Seriously. So my question, I said I had a question for those of you who have been getting this information from me. My question is, did you do the program that I organized for you free of charge? If the answer is no, my question is, why not? I don't know anyone, haven't met anyone who could not benefit from improving their physical health. Haven't met anyone. And actually, For those of you, because I've got a few friends who are bodybuilders, for example, Quinn, who is one of the trainers that you'll meet on both the free program and then the sampler program, if you go ahead and do that, and then the main programs. And every month they do a free. Once you've done the sampler program, you can be invited into the Block Therapy Facebook group. And so every month I've realized they do a free program, a free training, and then that goes into their membership, but you get a few days to do it for free. Quinn is into bodybuilding, etc. So there's a part of this also which is showing you how you can get ripped doing this and do a workout with it, etc. But seriously, if you asked me which would I prefer, potentially 12 to 18 months of physical physio where I'm having to travel and go to a gym and work with a physical therapist and go through some of the pain that I went through with my osteopath, or I can lie in bed for a couple of weeks watching Netflix, and literally that's all I'm doing, just lying there, no movement. And actually, the good thing about it is, which has just made me laugh out loud, it's like you don't want to move. It actually works better when you're static and you just stay in each position for 3 minutes. And it's really easy just to move the block around, it's no big deal, it doesn't interrupt the movie at all. But if you ask me which do I prefer, 12 to 18 months of hard slog or 6 weeks of lying around in bed watching Netflix and then getting this kind of result, I know where my money is. So if you have not done that free program that I sent to you, all you need is a rolled up towel. You do not need the blocks. Just use the rolled up towel. One of my clients got back to me. Actually, let me see if I have I got that document open. Let me just read you what they said, because let's see. That's not the one. Here we go. Yeah, so this is from one of my clients who came to the first one that we did in May. We did a Zoom call, as I said, for my e-newsletter list. She sent me an email saying, has she given me permission to share this? She said, I so enjoyed the block session on Thursday. There is something so right about it. She then says, I was on holiday when you did the feedback on the intro with Deanna. I would have added that a very long-term stiffness and pain stroke creakiness in my lower back disappeared after only a couple of practices. So I went back to her. I was like, oh, it's amazing. But I went back to her and I said, if you don't mind me asking, what age are you? And do you have the actual blocks? She came back and says, no, I'm in my, I think she said she's either late 50s, early 60s. She doesn't have the blocks. She's just been using the rolled up towel. Hear what I'm telling you. Very long-term stiffness, pain, creakiness disappeared in less than 3 weeks. That's amazing. It did not cost her a penny. So if you haven't signed up for the free program, I'm kind of bemused now. And the sampler program is a lot shorter. So you can get your blocking done, call it that, in less than half an hour. Some of the little intros are 15, 20 minutes. Seriously. If you've got a towel and you know how to fold it a couple of times and roll it, that is all you need. I cannot even begin to put into words the difference this has made in so many, shoulder aside, ankle aside. I can feel the difference in how I move. I can feel the difference in terms of my flexibility. I absolutely 150 million% noticed the difference when I went back to ballet class, because I've had to take a couple of months off ballet because people kept scheduling meetings on my ballet day. Which, as you all know, is very annoying, because when I first did ballet the first 3 years, it's like nothing interrupted ballet at all. And even in the 4th and 5th year, it had to be very important. And normally it was a no, we'll need to do that another day. Been slightly different with what I've been doing for the past year and a half or thereabouts with the counselor stuff. And I also did a training course that was for nearly 2 months. So I had several months away from ballet. Now, normally, when we have the 3-week Christmas break, oh my life, the first ballet class after Christmas, brutal. Calf muscles locking up, the tendons along the front of the feet locking up. everything locking up. It's just awful. And that's been the case for the last 4 or 5 years. This time, went back to ballet after I'd started doing block therapy. Number one, it was like I hadn't been away, no locking up of anything. And number two, my flexibility was better than when I had been to the class in January. So when I went back in May, my flexibility was better than it had been in January. And in that time, I'd only done 2 or 3 online classes. That is not enough to have given me that level of flexibility. So seriously, if you have not done the free program, I cannot even begin to imagine why not. Answers on a postcard, please, because I'm genuinely now going to be curious to know, after you've watched this video, if you still don't do the free 9-day program. I have no words. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you, but it has been absolutely amazing. So that's my little rant about that. Now, the final thing I want to talk to you about, and thank you so much to everyone who joined me for the chakra webinar on Thursday. That was on Thursday evening. On Friday evening, I had a wonderful message from one of the participants that said they've had some really vivid dreams. Another was just saying, wow, I'm just so relaxed. And then someone else got in touch and sent me a message saying it has started to happen already in terms of shifts and changes. We're talking about manifestation. We're talking about getting the flow going. And she had something she had been struggling to do, was not able to do, had given up on being able to do it, suddenly gets an opportunity, gets some money in, is able to do it within 24 hours. That is just amazing. So keep the feedback coming, please. Delighted always to hear how everyone is getting on. So the first one that we did was a free webinar. So that is available if you did want to access it. Let me see, with that one, did I put the link on there? Yeah, actually, the easiest thing to do is just go to my main website, www.transformationstm.com. Click on the red What's New button. A little panel will slide out. You're going to see this image, and click on the link. It will take you to the free webinar. So running time on that one is about 2 hours. The first one was longer because I know I had people taking part. They'd never heard of HUNA, H-U-N-A. They'd never heard of Access Consciousness. So I did an intro to both of those modalities as well. We also did just a brief overview about the chakras, what they are, how they work, before we got into the main body. So the one that we did this time round, we were looking at the base chakra, and we were talking about some of the properties, looking at what can happen when it's out of balance, when it's blocked, etc. And then we did the HUNA, the Access Consciousness, and we closed with a healing meditation. So yeah, what we also did, which was very cool, and we're definitely going to do that again, is everyone who took part, well, if they booked early enough, they received a quick survey, completely anonymous, so you didn't have to put your name, and you just say what it is you want to work on. Because what I wanted to do, and what I did do, was personalize the clearing statements, personalize the HUNA energy clearings, and also personalize the meditation. So it is not just what I think about the chakras and the general properties, it was where are you at with regards to that as well. So all of that then went into the mix, and it was personalized for everyone who took part. So I'll do that again with all of the rest. There are 7 in the series, there will be. So we did the first one. Next one's coming up, it's about the sacral chakra. So we'll do a similar thing with this, where we run through the properties, decide what it is you want to work on. Of course, if you were there live, people had the option to put some extra things into the chat or the private Q&A. But what I wanted to do is give people the opportunity to input beforehand, so I could then build that into the clearing statements. So for those of you who joined me live, because I was slightly distracted today, I was planning to be at home all day, and then the Talk TV invitation came in, so I've been out most of the day. So you've got until tomorrow if you want to take up the special offer that I talked about on the webinar on Thursday for the full 7-part series. What I'll then do is I'm going to send that out to my e-newsletter list, so the price will be changing and increasing for that. But I did an offer just for the people who were there live or registered for the replay recording. So that will be, you've got until tomorrow now. I did say Saturday, but Saturday is now gone. So you've got until tomorrow for that, for the special offer price. But if you do it after that, the price will be changing. And then once my e-newsletter list have had a chance to look at it over the bank holiday weekend, probably on Tuesday/Wednesday, when I put it out on social media, it will be a different price again. So just giving you the heads up on that, in case you go to the thing on Wednesday and go, hold on a minute, that wasn't what you said. It's just going to be all changing. But yeah, it has been a very interesting week. It's so wonderful. Seriously. This is like having, this is like a total health package in a block, So it's been a long day. I'm going to have a little bite to eat, find a lovely movie that I want to watch, and do tonight's blocking session. Yeah. But it will all make sense when you do the 9-day sample program. It will all make perfect sense. So get your rolled up towel. You can do it if when you're starting out, you've got a couple of options. You can just do it on an exercise mat. For some people, if that's too hard for you, you can actually do everything pretty much on the bed. Because I know some people, if they're in lots of pain, very sensitive, don't yet have the flexibility, they'll do the blocking on a bed, or they'll do it sitting on a chair, because there are adaptations you can do. So if you've got an exercise mat, great. If you haven't, I suggest you start using the bed. So you don't feel as much intensity, but it still works. And I would say that I'm living and breathing proof of that with what's happened this week with my physio and what happened a couple of weeks ago with my osteopath. So if you know anyone who could benefit from the block therapy, please, 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 please pass this information to them, send them the link, send them this video. If you would like to join me for the chakra series, my suggestion is read listen to part 1 or watch part 1. And for those of you actually who are my Huna subscribers, I've added the audio for part 1 of the webinar to the Soundwise platform. So you should have received an email about that. But if not, just go to the app and search for the newest recording. But it's called the chakra clearing. So you've got the audio there. But my suggestion is do the first webinar, because that's where I'm explaining how it all works. If you don't know about Huna and Access, then you'll do that. And then once I've given a bit of time, once I've launched it properly next week, probably towards the end of next week, beginning of the week after, what we'll then do is look at dates for part 2. In the first instance, I'm going to message everyone who has booked and see if I can get a steer for those who want to attend live, which dates and times works. I'm thinking potentially a Wednesday evening. The reason I'm kind of reluctant, we'd have to start with what I've got running before about 8:30 p.m. UK time, or potentially a Thursday. We did a 7:15 start this time. As I said, there'll be shorter sessions moving forwards because I don't have to do all the intro stuff. So just have a think about which day works for you, time of the day. If you're not in the UK time zone, do let me know your time zone as well once I send you the email. But yeah, if you want to join us for that, that'll be fabulous. So ping me an email if you have any questions. This is the website, transformationstm.com, TRANCE, F for Freddie, so FORMATIONS, TM as in trademark, so www.transformationstm.com. Email is Marilyn, MARILYN, @transformationstm.com. So let me know if you have any questions or queries, and by all means, please, please, please let me know how you get on with the free sampler program for block therapy. If you're on my e-newsletter list, just search for block therapy. I started sending the invites out in May, so you'll probably have to do just a global search, but search for block therapy. You'll find it. You'll find the link for the free sampler program. And I strongly, 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 strongly recommend that you give it a go, because I am pretty sure you will notice some improvements. And as I said, you don't have to have something wrong with you to be able to benefit from this. Cool. I will catch you all later. Hope that you're fit and healthy and well. Thank you for watching, and thank you so much for sharing. Bye-bye.